Probably, I will say that the do it for her thing from The Simpsons, like, always gets me all the time because, you know, it cuts to the core of, like, Homer Simpson, even though he is a bit of an idiot. You know, he is a family man and he puts his family first after he's put himself first on a lot of occasions. But my most emotional TV moment, I don't watch a lot of TV as it airs, I tend to just binge watch stuff as it goes back. But one show that I did watch as it aired was Community, which is a fantastic, fantastic series that I definitely would recommend. And if you're familiar with that show, you'll realise that there was a period where we thought it was just going to go forever. Season 5 got streamed through Hulu, I think, or something else, and then Yahoo was season 6. And the ending of season 6, like most of the main cast members had left at that point. So Donald Glover had left on to do Pastures New and obviously blow the world away as Childish Gambino and do all these sorts of movie things. Season 6, again, more cast members had left, and it was them kind of coming to terms with the fact that the show had probably lost all its legs. And it all just ends with the study group going their separate ways, and it's really, I'm getting emotional thinking about it right now. It's so sad because they're all moving on in life, and they're probably never going to see each other ever again because there's the whole metatextual element of 6 seasons and a movie, and the fact that the movie will never come. And at the end, they all just share a hug together, and then they play music from when they first met in the first season. And I was just there watching it. I was like, I'm crying. I was just so upset. And there's obviously the famous "I'm legit gay" line as well because Chang comes out, and it's just a lovely, Community. Don't forget about your own community, folks. The community that lives in your heart and your houses. Don't forget about them, because my community got cancelled a few years ago.
Scrubs. It's an episode called My Screw Up, which had Brendan Fraser in before he stopped working, which was sad in itself. So in this episode, JD makes a mistake and accidentally another patient dies under his watch, and Dr. Cox blames him for it and then ostracises him for the rest of the episode. Brendan Fraser's character is Dr. Cox's brother-in-law, and he's sort of talking about how he should not give JD a hard time, it wasn't his fault. And that it all builds up to a kids' party at the end, Dr. Cox's kids' party, where he finally lets JD back in, and there's like a moment at the end where Dr. Cox is like, we're going to do, what's this going to be, like clowns and bouncy castle or something, I'm paraphrasing, it's nothing like that. And JD says, where do you think we are? And then it cuts back to reality, and it turns out that Brendan Fraser's character died. He was the character who died. He died, and it was JD who was looking after him. And Dr. Cox is so broken up by it that he imagines Brendan Fraser's character for the entire episode. And it's like one of the hardest punches I've ever felt in TV, because it was a comedy, and like it comes out of absolutely nowhere. And I remember proper bubbling at it.
My most emotional TV moment isn't actually one that really got me upset. I know a lot of other people have been talking about stuff that made them cry or anything like that. It's a moment that made me feel. And that was The Office UK Christmas special. We'd invested 2 seasons in the relationship between Dawn and Tim, and it all looked like it was going to be falling apart. Dawn was leaving. He'd given her this lovely present that was just demonstrated the fact that he knew her far better than her partner, despite the fact she was engaged and off to be married and leaving him forever. And then they returned to the Christmas party. Tim's there, chatting to Gareth. In walks Dawn, and Brent, in his Brentian style, goes, "Oh," like that, as I adopt often in the What Culture office. Dawn turns Tim round, kisses him. Gareth says, "Hold on, she's got a fiancé," and she says, "Not anymore." And 14-year-old me suddenly realised, oh, maybe I should get off YouTube comment sections and just be nicer to people. Made me feel. Made me feel.
Well, I refuse to give it to anything other than this, even though Lost's fandom and Lost's general placement in entertainment history is a bit of a mess. But for those of us who stuck with Lost, we went on that journey all the way to the island and the mysterious hatch and all that kind of stuff. And the plot dovetailed off in a million different directions, but I did keep up with it. And there's one bit, it's in about season 3-ish, season 3 or 4, where basically it's when two characters get to talk to each other for the first time in years. And it'll not mean anything other than the fans themselves. But basically, Desmond is the guy that was inside the hatch the whole time. Turns out he was there because he wanted to prove that he could do something with his life to his girlfriend or potential future wife, Penny. And he goes to the island, he embarks on this whole sailing competition thing to prove, to Penny and to Penny's father, that he's worth something. And he gets shipwrecked and he gets stuck on the island, gets lost in the hatch, and he doesn't believe anybody's ever going to come for him or anything. Cut to a few seasons later when they've managed to get off the island, but it's still kind of like winging a prayer type stuff. And Desmond is off the island, he's with Saeed, and they sort of make this telephone-based device that he hopes he can ring the outside world with. Turns out, though, that when Desmond left Penny, years ago, whenever he left, they didn't leave on good terms. And so here's where the Lost madness comes in, because then we have to go through time travel, because Desmond transports his mentality back into his older self to tell Penny, back in the day, that he's going to ring her at some point in the future, and he needs her to pick up. And so you follow him back. You follow his mental state, basically, back in time. He goes to the door and he knocks on the door and Penny answers, and obviously she doesn't want anything to do with him because they're falling out and whatever. And he just says, look, all I need you to do is just trust me. Whatever we are, there's something here and I need you to trust me. And she's just whatever. And so he leaves. And old school him leaves. Everything happens, still does the sailing thing. And then we follow his mental state back to the present where he's picking up the phone and he rings. And it rings and it rings and it answers, and she's there and he just wells up and he's like, you cared and you answered. Oh God, I love it, and it's the best thing.
The one I'm actually going to talk about is a live action TV moment, which is of course the Red Wedding, because that was absolutely ludicrous. It's one of the finest pieces of TV you'll ever watch, and then tears your heart out, stamps on it, drives a little dagger in it and jabs it a bit like Needle. It's, oh my God, it's the most intense thing I've ever watched. And I remember all my family sitting down and watching it, and the Starks going in for the whole Walder reception, all being warm and lovely, and we're all sitting down. The room just goes silent when you notice the betrayal, and Catelyn Stark's like, oh, what's going on? And then obviously all of the goes down. Everyone's being stabbed. There's a pregnant woman with a knife in her belly. There's arrows flying around. People get their throats slit. It's not nice, and it's all. Arya's watching outside. The dog gets killed. I'm just describing death and maiming and torture because it is horrible. It's a horrible piece of TV, and it's very emotional because who would put themselves through that any time more than once? There's no beating it. It's a good piece of TV.
Are you okay?
No, I don't think I am. I've relived it in my mind, and it sent me to a dark, dark place. I was very invested in Robb Stark at this point in the series, and watching him go I'm not over it.
There's a good reason why people didn't want to touch it, because it is so goddamn sad. But my most emotional television moment is Jurassic Park, specifically the final sequence from Jurassic Park from Futurama. Now, if you've not seen the episode, it details Fry. He goes into a museum and he sees the prehistoric fossilized remains of his dog. Now, obviously, the whole premise of Futurama has been frozen. He's 1,000 years in the future. That is quite sad in of himself, because that's his dog. That is, and the episode then has lots of flashbacks, details the relationship Fry had with the dog, and it just becomes a bit of a farce. Bender starts to feel jealous and wants his own robo-dog, and it's all about the connection between man and dog, and it's very nice. And then towards the end of the episode, they realise that they have the technology that they could bring the dog back to life.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, that's the thing, so he's going to do it. And then right before they do it, Fry stops, and he says, do you know what, I can't do it because I've been gone for so long. They realise the age of the dog at the time it was fossilised, and Fry realises that he'd been gone for years and years at that point. So he realises he can't do it because the poor thing led an entire separate life without him. It got accustomed to him not being around anymore, and it's unfair then to then bring it back into the future, yada, yada, etc., etc. So he decides not to do it on that basis. And then the episode ends. You think it does, but I'm probably going to start well up here. It doesn't, because then it shows a montage of the dog just sitting outside Panucci's Pizza for the entire rest of his life, waiting for Fry to come back, and the seasons change, and it's soundtrack to I Will Wait For You, to cover version of it by Connie someone or other, I think, and it's just, you can't believe they're actually doing that to you at first, because it's just, Fry isn't there, and then the dog lives and lives and lives, and it starts getting older and more tired, and even Mr. Panucci comes out, and he's old and tired, and the dog's waiting in the exact same spot for Fry its entire life, and the episode ends with him just closing his eyes. And that is, I saw that about a week after my pet cat died, which I'd had for about 5 years, and that properly got me, and it always, always reminds me of that. Like the connection people have with their pet, it's never been better summed up in television, about how it's just, you have each other, you've got completely different lifespans, but you do have each other forever when you've got pets, and that's my most emotional TV moment.